get to Tim Walz, who, just when you think no one's sitting at this table, neither she nor the big white blanket, can embarrass themselves any further, he does. She asks him, to her credit, about the carrying the weapons in war, which we know is a lie. He never served in war. He's been stealing valor for quite some time. And
one that I will point out that I think is really important, really came at the very end of the debate, that I wish the moderators, had they been fair and neutral, that they would have focused on, because it is a very serious issue that we're facing, which is censorship under Kamala Harris that we've seen over the last 4 years. We have hard evidence that this has been taking place. And you have Tim Walz himself, who has said that free speech and the First Amendment is a privilege and that it does not apply to misinformation and disinformation.
When Megyn Kelly and Tulsi Gabbard decide to come after you, they don't just bring scissors, they bring a wood chipper. And this time, Tim Walz found himself tossed straight in. Walz, somehow managing to be both painfully boring and endlessly irritating, became the perfect chew toy for their relentless roast. What started as a few sharp jabs quickly turned into a full-scale takedown of his entire political persona. Every carefully crafted talking point, every forced smile, every staged photo op, shredded. By the end, Walz looked less like a governor and more like a confused high school substitute teacher who accidentally wandered into the wrong office.
The media has zero interest in not one, not two, not three, but 4 vets who actually served with Tim Walz coming forward to say he's a coward and he abandoned them at their greatest moment of need. Zero coverage from New York Times and CNN and Washington Post. But this scuffle over whether Trump inappropriately took pictures at a place Joe Biden's already taken pictures and released them as campaign efforts, that's dominated the news media now for 8.
Tim Walz is the kind of politician who could hold a 45-minute press conference and still leave everyone wondering what he actually said. He has mastered the rare talent of talking endlessly while saying absolutely nothing memorable. That's why Megyn Kelly and Tulsi Gabbard didn't even have to exaggerate to roast him. All they had to do was hold up a mirror. Walz is a walking parody of Midwestern blandness. Except instead of polite and charming, he's an awkward cocktail of arrogance mixed with a splash of cluelessness.
You said you carried weapons in war, but you've never deployed in a war zone. A campaign official of yours said you misspoke. Did you? Well, I'm proud, incredibly proud of my record. He keeps doing this. Equally proud of my service in the classroom. Did I mention I was a teacher and a coach, an assistant coach? Okay, whatever. But he's more stolen valor. In the classroom, I'm in the classroom. My record speaks for itself. It doesn't actually. You've put a lot of lies into that record that you've been called out on by service personnel. You must clarify.
Both he and President Trump are listening to the American people. You contrast that with what we hear from Kamala Harris, what we heard from Tim Walz, who had a really, really tough job tonight trying to defend Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's disastrous policies. But what we've heard from Kamala Harris and Joe Biden over the last 4 years is how great Biden.
The roast wastes no time tearing through the heart of his so-called leadership. Walz loves to present himself as a down-to-earth, small-town dad figure, but the facade collapses the moment someone asks a tough question. He stumbles, he waffles, he rambles, desperately searching for a point that never comes. His answers are so painfully generic, they could have been copied straight off a motivational poster in a dentist's office. Megyn Kelly skewers this perfectly, pointing out that his speeches sound less like political strategy and more like a passive-aggressive PTA meeting where nobody actually wants to be there.
Vetted Tim Walz hard back in 2018 when he was trying to elevate from congressman to governor, and he did it successfully. And here's the headline: former National Guardsman, Tim Walz is misleading the public about his time in service. I'm going to read you some excerpts. Walz often refers to his military service as he campaigns for governor. However, former members of the Minnesota National Guard are raising concerns over the discrepancies in his story, saying he's misleading the public.
Walz is the kind of guy who could stand in a room full of people cheering for him and still somehow manage to look like the least important person there. Kelly and Gabbard ripped into the absurdity of it all. How someone so painfully average managed to stumble his way into political office, and then, against all odds, convinced himself he was destined for greatness. By the time they're done, His entire man of the people act is left in tatters.
We saw Tim Walz, who I think he's done virtually one interview, a puff piece with CNN, and Kamala Harris by his side. And I think he had a tough job, again, of trying to defend Kamala Harris's record and did not meet the mark of even trying to make their case to the American people in a very compelling and clear way.
What makes Walz such an easy target is his desperate attempt to appear tough while being paper thin underneath. He's mastered the art of chest-puffing politics, delivering big declarations about leadership, responsibility, and vision, only to retreat or do nothing when it actually counts. He talks like a general leading an army, but acts more like a nervous crossing guard waving traffic past. Megyn Kelly lands the perfect punchline, saying Walz's biggest accomplishment might just be his uncanny ability to look overwhelmed by absolutely everything. From budgets to debates, and probably even a salad bar with too many dressing options.
And then here's two pieces of this that are really, I speak like they do. People are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about, and then he goes on to blame it on the school shootings. I guess he was upset about school shootings, so
Tulsi Gabbard sharpens the knife by exposing his flimsy decision-making. Whenever Walz faces real pressure, he doesn't rise to the occasion. He melts. Instead of strategy, he offers excuses. Instead of backbone, he delivers platitudes. And somehow, he thinks no one notices. Kelly and Gabbard destroy this illusion, highlighting how his entire career is built on smoke, mirrors, and endless rambling, designed to trick people into believing he's competent. Then comes the hypocrisy. Walz has carefully been a man of the people, but Kelly ridicules how often he changes his stance, faster than a bad DJ switching tracks at a high school prom. Tulsi piles on, pointing out that the problem isn't just inconsistency. It's that Walz actually believes voters won't notice. He acts like the entire electorate has the memory span of a goldfish.
One of the moments that stood out to me that Tim Walz was talking about how now is a time where we need Kamala Harris's steady hand of leadership, and especially with what we're seeing happening in the Middle East today, he threw out a lot of words that tried to distract away from Kamala Harris's record. Her and Joe Biden's policy on Iran was one word: don't.
From there, the roast dives into Walz's obsession with being liked. He doesn't just want approval. He craves it like oxygen. Every speech, every photo op, every carefully staged moment screams, "Look at me. I'm relatable." But the act never lands. His folksy Midwestern persona feels staged, like a regional theater actor who spent months rehearsing, only to forget half his lines on opening night. Megyn Kelly calls it out mercilessly, reminding everyone that authenticity can't be manufactured, no matter how many fake "aw shucks" smiles you force. Tulsi strikes from another angle, painting Walz as not just fake, but fragile, constantly tying himself in knots, trying to explain why nothing is ever his fault. By the time he's done, nobody remembers the question, but everyone remembers he didn't answer it.
He's just utterly incompetent. Look how he handled his own National Guard during the
Well, he said there was a reason for that. There's a reason he didn't deploy them, and we'll show you that soundbite too. He's got strong thoughts about how the National Guard should be deployed, and I guess he didn't think they were appropriate to go out the first couple of nights. We'll say soundbite 5. He didn't think that they were appropriate to go out the first couple of nights of Minneapolis burning post George Floyd.
The mayor knew what he was asking for. He wanted the National Guard, and what does that mean? I think to the mayor, yes, I think it's a perception. I'm certainly not questioning that. I think the mayor said, I request the National Guard. Whew, I'm out. This is great. We're going to have massively trained troops. No, you're going to have 19-year-olds who are cooks.
Then the roast pivots to Walz's delusional sense of self-importance. This is a man who somehow believes he's not just a state-level politician, but a national powerhouse, a big player on the political stage. Kelly laughs at the absurdity, saying Walz comparing himself to top leaders is like a local car rental manager comparing himself to Elon Musk. Tulsi drives the point home, reminding everyone that leadership isn't about calling yourself a visionary. It's about actually making decisions that matter. Gabbard roasts him even harder, describing Walz as a human black hole of enthusiasm, someone who doesn't just fail to inspire, he actively drains energy from every room he enters.
But I do want to talk about Tim Walz because, my God, my very first story at Fox News, very young cub reporter, was Swift Boat Veterans for Truth, coming after John Kerry and his misrepresentations about his military service. Tim Walz has a Swift boat problem of his own. If you look back at Alpha News, and this is a great news organization, we had them on when they did the documentary about the trial of Derek Chauvin and the smear job by so many against him. I'm not defending, the tape. I'm just saying if you actually watch this documentary, you'll be horrified at what was done to Chauvin by the officials in charge in Minnesota.
Kelly doesn't let up, joking that every time Walz tries to sound cool, somewhere out there, a teenager dies of secondhand embarrassment. Tulsi adds that the problem isn't just that Walz isn't cool, it's that he doesn't realize it. He thinks every forced smile and awkward laugh lands when, in reality, the entire audience is cringing. At this point, the roast turns into a demolition job. His record, his persona, his ego, nothing survives. Kelly mocks his obsession with treating the governorship like a never-ending high school pep rally, while Tulsi skewers his constant contradictions and hollow boasts. Together, they strip him down to his most ridiculous essence.
But stop saying you speak like we do. I speak like regular people. What kind of bullshit is that? No, you don't, sir. We don't lie about military service we didn't actually perform, like going to war. We don't steal valor by saying that we had a higher rank in the National Guard than we did. We don't run around saying we served in operating Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan when we didn't. We don't stand and watch somebody say that we were in combat in Iraq when we weren't.
The final punchlines are brutal. Walz wants to be remembered as a great leader, but thanks to Kelly and Gabbard, he'll be remembered as a punchline. And the beauty of it? He won't even realize it. He'll keep smiling awkwardly, keep rambling through press conferences, still convinced he's winning people over, while the rest of the world laughs at his expense. Kelly highlights how Walz desperately tries to project calm under pressure, but the facade cracks instantly. The moment he's pressed with tough questions, his fake composure vanishes. His tone shifts, his face tightens, and the nice guy act collapses into visible irritation.
Fallout continues for Tim Walz on the disastrous performance he delivered, in particular when it comes to his self-described knuckle-headed behavior, which was just his latest in a series of lies. The reason he resorted to, I'm a knucklehead, was he got confronted with his latest lie that's been unearthed. There's a long list of them. This one was that he was in China when the Tiananmen Square disaster unfolded, when hundreds of people were killed. You know whether you were in a place where hundreds of people are being massacred by their government when it happens. But he continues to try to say, like, oh, gee, I was just kind of confused. That happened in May and I was there in August, but I guess I just imagined that I was there, whatever.
Kelly tears into his empty language, saying his answers sound less like leadership and more like a bad motivational podcast where the host ran out of material halfway through the episode. She doubles down, pointing out that the only consistent thing about Walz's responses is that they always leave people more confused than when they started. Tulsi follows up by dismantling his delusion about popularity, explaining how Walz mistakes polite tolerance for genuine admiration. That's why he believes he's bigger than he really is. He can't tell the difference between applause and silence.
Take a listen to this answer.
You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about
about our children being shot in schools and around.
The finishing blow is savage. Kelly jokes that Walz is the kind of leader who would take 6 months to decide what kind of pizza to order. And by the time he makes up his mind, everyone's already left the party. Tulsi delivers the kill shot. Leaders who can't decide aren't leaders at all. They're placeholders. By the end, Walz is left standing in the wreckage of his carefully constructed image. The more he tries to appear commanding, the smaller he looks under the glare of air roast. Kelly and Gabbard strip away every layer of fake relatability, hollow rhetoric, and borrowed charisma, until all that's left is a man who accidentally climbed too high on the political ladder and now has no idea how to get down. Walz wanted to be remembered as a leader for the ages, but thanks to Megyn Kelly and Tulsi Gabbard, he'll forever be remembered as the governor who got roasted so thoroughly that even his fake smile didn't survive.